Hi guys, it's Thriller Thursday, so I have a little story I'm going to tell you, and this is about how I met my spirit guide. Before I go any further, let me say thank you for watching my channel. Please like and subscribe. Watch my channel for art, ghost stories, cooking, and home decor. Now let's get to the story. Like many healers and spiritual people on a journey, they realize that they have been connected to the other side for a very long time. And as they got older, they lost a bit of themselves. Or as it's better known, the veil drops down and they forget how connected they are to spirit. As I began my reawakening to really my core self, I began reading a lot more about spirit and the other side, and I was gifted a teacher who helped me to awaken even more of myself during that time. When the idea that everyone has a spirit guide, and for some, many spirit guides, and that they interchange and aren't always the same exact spirit guide your entire life. Some may be with you through certain times, and when their teaching is done, another spirit guide comes in, whereas other people may have many spirit guides throughout their life and at the same time. Well, I wanted to know my spirit guide, and I was told that I have many, but there is one main spirit guide. And so if I wanted to meet him or her, I needed to simply make the request to know my spirit guide, and they would come. So quietly and spiritually, I requested to know my spirit guide and to have a meeting. And so shortly after that evening, I prepared for bed as I would every other night. Since a young child, and with having many spiritual sightings and different things that have occurred to me in my life, I always felt more comfortable sleeping with the door closed. But having children in the house, I could never close my door all the way. And so, just like I would do any other night, I closed my door 3/4 of the way, leaving it cracked enough for me to hear my children if they were moving around or if they were to call me. Now, a little side story is that I always kept a side journal by my bed because I, all my life, had insomnia, terrible insomnia. And one of the techniques that I had learned to help me with that was to wake up and to write down whatever it is. If I was stressing over something, to write it out and put it on paper of things that I needed to do the next day if it was stress related, or if there were deeper thoughts, to just get up and write them. So I was prepared with a journal and a pen next to my bed. Sometime after 2 a.m. in the morning, I woke up and I looked at the end of my bed. I looked around my room and there was nothing there, but I didn't feel alone. Then I looked over towards my door, and when I looked there, the door swung open against the wall, and it wasn't done harshly, but more mindfully, like someone had just grabbed the doorknob and pushed it towards the wall to come in. And that's when I saw it. I just lay there looking, and it was that feeling that I had that something was there, but I couldn't see it. I felt uneasy. So I kept staring at the door. Obviously, it just opened up on its own, so there's good reason for me to feel uneasy. But then I started to see something forming at the door, and the only way to describe this to you is it formed in a 7-foot static that came in the form of a massive body. So imagine a 7-foot person if they were broken down into black static, yet they were formed enough to see the outline of a body and were moving towards you. I laid there stunned, but I wasn't terrified because I understood more about spirit and spirit guides. And I had asked for a meeting, and so it made perfect sense to me that I asked and now I'm receiving a visit from my spirit guide. But still, I wasn't sure, so I lay in the bed rather stunned. This black mass moved towards me until it was at the edge of my bed. And instead of being fearful as I might have done, I had decided that if a spirit came to me, I was no longer going to be fearful, but I would ask it its name and why it was here. And so I sat stunned, knowing that I was seeing this static mass in front of my bed. And I simply internally, spiritually asked it, "What is your name?" And that's when I received the name of my spirit guide, whose name was Imlu. Now, Imlu came with a message for me, and he specifically said, "Write it down. You're not going to remember this." And one of the things that I remember about Imlu is he was so and is so matter of fact in how he speaks. In fact, there have been many times where I perhaps wasn't listening to the advice of Imlu, and my sister would get a visit, and she never liked getting a visit from Imlu. She would always let me know in a rather anxious voice, "Why don't you listen to your spirit guide so I don't have to get a visit from him?" Imlu only ever intimidated me the initial time that I met him, and it was only because I wasn't sure what it was that was happening or who it was. And I think in the spirit realm, many times people feel fear because they just don't know what to expect or who or what it is. In most cases, I've found that there is no reason to be fearful, but perhaps in others there are. Another funny moment when I first met Imlu and I was laying in bed staring at a 7-foot mass of static, when he told me his name and he gave me a directive, "Write it down, you're not going to remember," I quickly, while still staring at this mass, reached over to my journal. Because I quickly did what he asked me to do, I actually knocked over the water that was in front of the journal and it poured all over, but still I ignored that and I grabbed the journal with the pen and I began to write. And the things that he showed me were symbols, and he did give me words that at that time I wrote down, and it became a book that I wrote called The Great Gathering of the Gods. And it was just the beginning of me meeting and talking with Imlu. And from that, I learned that I had other spirit guides, and there was more paranormal activity in the home during the writing of that book. And it was just an amazing experience. Today, I am no longer afraid of the visits and the shadows and the things that I see. I understand it now, and that I am as powerful as anything that could come to me, and I am no greater and I am no smaller than any other spirit. Imlu is to me as real as any other person that I know in this physical plane, and he has influenced my life and continues to do so in so many ways. If you want to meet your spirit guide, all you have to do is simply ask and have that intention. But I will warn you that when you ask for it, you will receive that meeting. And so do your best to remember that when when they arrive, to not be afraid, because your guides are here to help you. They're called guides because that's what they do. They help guide you. I hope you've enjoyed my story, And please remember, if you like this, to like and subscribe and follow me on my Patreon page starting January 1st, called The Impractical Magical Artist. The link will be in the description. Thank you and have a great day. Om Vajrasatyasya Om Vajrasatyasya